Doc Rivers would clinch it tonight.
Wow.
If the Knicks, the Cavs, and the Sixers all lose. If the Knicks...
Yeah, this is crazy.
How did Doc Rivers go from winning Coach of the Year in 2000 and the NBA championship in 2008 to being one of the most criticized coaches in the league?
What's even more weird about that, Kenny? Doc has lost his first 2 games.
In 2009, everyone thought Doc Rivers was a good coach and would go on to have an amazing career. Fast forward to today, and the man has almost become a meme. So what happened? Where did things go wrong? Hello, basketball fans, and welcome to Hoop Vision. Today, we're talking about one of the most doubted head coaches to ever lead the NBA franchise, and trying to figure out whether what happened to his career was all his fault, or was there also some bad luck involved. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It takes only a second, costs nothing, and will give you access to more basketball stories. Doc Rivers' approach to basketball as a player hinted towards him becoming a good coach in his later years. Just like many point guards do after they're done playing, Doc wanted to explore what it's like to experience the game wearing a different kind of uniform. He didn't just make the league, but was actually a legit player and had a solid run with the Atlanta Hawks and Dominique Wilkins as his teammate. His very nickname, Doc, was appointed by none other than Julius Erving, which speaks volumes about Rivers. If Dr. Jr. shows you that kind of respect, you know you've earned it. He'd go on to have a pretty successful 13-year career, also playing for the Clippers, Knicks, and his last stop, the Spurs. After his retirement in 1996, Doc took a small break from basketball and became a head coach for the Orlando Magic 3 years later in 1999. His first year wasn't bad at all. Orlando finished with a .500 record and were just 2 wins shy from reaching the playoffs. That was also the season after which he earned the Coach of the Year award, despite everyone predicting he'd end up ranking among the bottom. Next year, in the 2000 to 2001 season, Orlando was aiming to become relevant again and went on to sign T-Mac and Grant Hill, both of whom left their original teams. We all know LeBron is being accused of creating big threes, but Orlando's initial plan was to make one that exact season. Tim Duncan was a free agent and was supposed to sign with the Magic, thus completing Doc's super team. Unfortunately, Duncan backed off and re-signed with San Antonio, and the reason might shock you. Allegedly, Doc has a very strict policy when it comes to non-team members on the plane, which means no wives, no kids, no siblings. Everybody who's not a part of the franchise has to travel separately. Years after, Grant Hill confirmed this was the most probable reason Tim didn't join Orlando and decided to stay with the Spurs. Something about that rule just rubbed him the wrong way, and we'll never get to know what could have been, which raises a legit question. Did Doc Rivers cost Orlando 4 championships? Duncan went on to win 4 more titles with San Antonio, so is it possible he could have done the same with Hill and T-Mac? The Eastern teams that made the finals in 2000, 01, and 02 didn't give much of a challenge to Kobe and Shaq, but what if Duncan had the help of 2 of the most fluid scorers of that era? NBA history would be so much different if Doc didn't have a problem many of his former players are pointing out, failing to make the necessary adjustments. Many have criticized him for it, and if you really stop to think, you'll realize that's exactly what he did in Orlando. He failed making the adjustment needed in order to bring in Tim Duncan. If the best power forward in the league wants to play for you, you let him bring his wife to the game. You change the rules so that your best players are happy. Unfortunately, Doc didn't see it that way and got fired in 2003 after a horrible start to the season, never making it past the first round of the playoffs during his time with the Magic. After taking a 1-year break, he signed as a head coach for the Boston Celtics, who were a mediocre team at that point. Paul Pierce was their franchise player, and the year before they got swept by the Pacers in the very first round. It was perfect timing for both to start with a clean slate. In his first year, they improved in a way, they lost to the Pacers again, but this time in 7 games rather than just 4. Then, no playoffs for 2 more years, until the 07 and 08 season, and we all know what happened then. The addition of Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett made the Celtics go from having a 24 and 58 record in 06 to 07 all the way up to 66 and 16 next year, the best record in the league. So all they had to do was sign better players to Boston. Wrong. That year, 2007, was also the year they added Tom Thibodeau to their coaching staff. The Celtics were the best defensive team in the league that season, and guess who was their main defensive schemes guy? Yep, that's right, it was Thibs. That's also why many people are questioning Doc's contribution to that 08 championship and giving more credit to now Coach Thibodeau rather than him. The team went from winning 24 games to winning 66, and all of that happened because of the changes made by others, not Doc. Paul Pierce and Ray Allen were the only guys attempting more than 4 threes per game while hitting almost 40% of them, so it's not like they were an offensive powerhouse at times. On the other hand, they had an absolute #1 defensive rating out of every other 29 teams in the league, which makes it obvious why everyone puts Tom in the spotlight. Just for reference, Boston's defensive rating the year before was 16th, which is quite a difference. Doc had 3 seasons to implement all kinds of schemes and strategies, but had 0 results. In 2007, they get Allen, KG, and Thibs, and they end up with a championship. Coincidence? You make up your mind. After losing to the Lakers in 2010, Thibs went to the Chicago Bulls to be their head coach, and they instantly made it to the Eastern Finals, but lost to Miami in an epic 3-minute comeback led by LeBron and D-Wade. Doc stayed with the Celtics until 2013, but they just couldn't go past the Heat. The time for the rebuild had come, and Coach Rivers was ready to continue his career in LA. Everything was set for him to succeed. He had the best point guard in the league, one of the most athletic power forwards to ever grace the floor, and a solid center in DeAndre Jordan. Also, the supporting cast was pretty good as well. So the main question is, what went wrong? His first postseason against the Thunder went under the radar as everyone was focusing on the scandal around Donald Sterling's racist comments, which ultimately led him to sell the team to Steve Ballmer. The 2014 and 15 season was where Doc's downfall as a coach really began. After being up 3-1 against the Rockets in the Western semis, everyone expected the Clippers to just finish off Harden and the crew. However, they managed to lose 3 straight games in the series and continued the Clippers' curse. The next 2 seasons were both first-round exits against the Blazers and the Jazz, which led to CP3 being fed up with Los Angeles and leaving for Houston. The year he left, the Clippers missed the playoffs and would not be relevant again until the aftermath of the 2019 NBA Finals. Everyone was buzzing about them once Leonard and PG announced their arrival, but the #1 question was still about the Clippers' curse and Doc being the head coach. Unfortunately for their fans, Doc proved everyone the curse was real by blowing another 3-1 lead to the Nuggets, thus ending his long episode in LA. His next stop was Philly, another franchise that was just waiting to be ruined. Doc's first year in the city of brotherly love was marked by that notorious series against the Hawks where Ben Simmons became the meme and decided he was done with the organization. Losing to Miami and Boston in the next 2 years also added salt to the wound, and Doc found himself explaining season after season why he wasn't the only one to blame for his team's lack of success. In case you need a reminder regarding the previous season, here's a quick recap. The Bucks fired Coach Bud to gain a fresh start and ask Giannis for his preference. He chooses Adrian Griffin and also trades Drew to get Dame. Dame sucks. Coach Griffin sucks. What should the Bucks do? They can't send away Dame, obviously, so the scapegoat title goes to Coach Griffin. But who should replace him? Why not the most recent member of his staff and the former NBA championship, Doc Why Win in 4 Rivers? In his defense, he did step in way deep into the season, and Giannis was unavailable for most of the series against Indiana. However, the Bucks were struggling from day one of him becoming a head coach and just never looked like real contenders. They were having trouble with closing out games, blowing big leads, having 2 long periods without a basket or a defensive stop. In other words, they were inconsistent as hell. Everything goes back to those comments Doc's players made about him not making adjustments. The man either notices the problem too late or doesn't notice it at all. If you're a Bucks fan, there's no reason you should be happy about the upcoming season. There haven't been any significant roster changes. Doc will stay in charge unless he starts with a record of 2-10 or something like that. And on top of that, Dame isn't getting any younger. With the current state of affairs, the most the Bucks can hope for is the second round, where either Boston, New York, or Philly will wait for them. They might prove us wrong by surprising some of the East's powerhouses and taking a 3-1 lead, but knowing Doc, there are no reasons to celebrate until you have won 4 games in a series. That's it for today, Hoop Fam. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments, what do you think of Doc Rivers as a coach and how far he'll go with the Bucks next year. Thank you for watching and growing this channel. Make sure you don't miss out on more NBA stories by hitting that subscribe button. See you in the next one.